I am dog shit at taking breaks. I figured that out the hard way a few months ago when my girlfriend went out of town and I worked nonstop for 14 days straight. No days off, no evenings off, nothing. This is my happy place. But she came back and I literally broke down into tears. I think that's what they might call burnout. Maybe you're like me. Oh, actually, in fact, I know you're like me because you clicked this video. You are the kind of guy who watches YouTube videos on productivity for leisure. I see you. I am you. The problem is that every successful person tells you to do the same thing when you get burned out. Take a vacation, do a digital detox, stop working. I think that is not good advice for people like us because I like to work. I don't want to stop working. So I think I came up with a loophole. A way to rest, but to trick my brain into thinking that I was doing something. I call it tending the garden. And actually, you could just tend your garden. You can literally garden, and I think that will answer most of your problems. But that doesn't quite scratch the itch for me. Gardening doesn't necessarily resonate with me. So if you are interested in finding out more, that is what the rest of this video is about. Finding your gardening activity. So maybe you don't end up bursting in tears in front of your girlfriend or wanting to punch a hole through the wall because your Wi-Fi is acting up. I've been there. I think that I have a rest problem. Maybe you do too. Here's how you know that you might have a problem. Do you find yourself getting only 6 hours of sleep and then thinking, I actually only need 6 hours of sleep. I feel fine. Do you love work so much that you work during the day, but then you think, maybe I can also work during the night? And hell, I've got all this free time on the weekends. Maybe I should work then too. You might be like me and simultaneously feel like time is moving extremely fast, but somehow extremely slow, all at the same time. I have been there, I have done that. I am going through this journey alongside you. I like work. I don't want to stop working. But then I think about our cavemen ancestors. I am just like them. It doesn't really make sense though. Why do guys, humans, work so hard if your basic needs are met? I'll tell you what's in my fridge right now. I've got 3 or 4 containers of 0% Valle. I have got fillets for days. I've got a beautiful infrared grill that is stocked up on propane. I'm set for a while, but yet I continue to work like I'm not sure where my next meal is going to come from. Logically, I should be able to flick on a television show mid-Saturday instead of filming a YouTube video and just chill for a minute. But I don't want to chill. Maybe one day I will, but I'll be chilling in a mansion or on a yacht or in a castle in some fancy European island that has not been discovered yet. I will plant my flag in it, cinema gravy territory. That's the bar that I've set for myself. Life is really good, but yet I want more. I want more. I just want more all the time. I don't really even think that's in my nature because when I was a youth, I was a chubby kid, and most of my days, especially during summer, I would put on the same pair of basketball shorts. I would eat absolute garbage food and kill time in between eating more garbage food. Trader Joe's used to sell this bagged pasta. It was meant for a family of 4, but I would throw that in the microwave, nuke it, and eat the entire thing. If that wasn't the case, I would do some microwave nachos the next day. For dessert, I'd have those industrial-sized containers of peanut butter. That's not quite enough. Nestle's House chocolate chips. My parents would hide them from me, but I would find them. Dump that into the peanut butter. So now I've got a nice little honey pot, Pooh Bear style. I go in, and in between waiting on Modern Warfare 2 lobbies, take a spoonful of peanut butter, and just go digging for the chocolate chips, and inevitably you would get some of the peanut butter too. It's no wonder I was 50 pounds overweight for most of my life. Leisure seems like it's in my blood. I seem to have gotten that out of my system. So eventually I caught the self-development bug. For over a decade, I have studied successful people and I've heard them all say different things. Like they all have their own formula for success. There is a theme that unites all of them though. And it's the way that they talk about burnout. I don't even like saying that word because it's used so much it seems to just have its own vibe. It is less of a defined term and more of just the boogeyman. You don't even speak his name. And there's not a lot of information as to why it's a bad thing, why we should avoid it, or how to avoid it. As far as I can understand, the principle goes, no matter what guru speaks to you about it, work too hard and there will be consequences. I am taught and I believe that the harder I work, the quicker I will reach success. But if there's going to be an obstacle in my way, I'd like to find out about it. But the problem is that nobody tells you how does it start? How does burnout start? I have sat on the floor and listened to the entrepreneurs that have climbed the ladder of success. There's a problem with the way that they all talk about this. It's that we always see them at the end of their journey. Perhaps maybe they have burnt out, but we never really understand where it starts. A really shitty analogy that comes to mind, but I've been watching a lot of Grey's Anatomy, so I am fully indoctrinated as if I have a medical degree. It's easy to tell when you have a brain tumor when you start uttering gibberish. You develop a taste in men, and your girlfriend starts to think, hey, you used to like girls, what's the deal with that? That's when the guys show up in the ER and they say they think there's something wrong with them. But it doesn't start that way. It probably starts as a little bit of a dull headache. That's when the malignancy starts. Harder to spot then. I think it's the same way with productivity. I think it's the same way with my business. In the same way that I train. When I'm in the gym, I add 2.5 pounds to the bar, and then all of a sudden, a year later, I'm benching 315 like it was 225, and I haven't noticed the strain on my body in that time. I progressively overload the work until I'm maxing myself out, but it doesn't feel like maxing out. The way that it starts with my business is I do a video a week, and I think I should start a newsletter too. And then I go to 2 videos a week, and I start a podcast because I can find the time. YouTube seems like a good opportunity for me. I'll talk about the newsletter on there. I can shoot that on the weekends. I pick up another project and a project and a project, and I don't even notice that my routine's changed at all. Like the fella who's developed a totally different sexual preference, the headache turns into a little bit of lightheadedness, and you think, oh, I did start chewing on nicotine toothpicks. Maybe it's just too much caffeine. And maybe that's not the best thing. The second big problem with all the successful people that I worship is they don't have a solution for guys like us. There is no acknowledgement that what got us here is because we're just psychotic and we enjoy the hurt, enjoy the work. All of these successful guys and girls got their success from burning the candle at both ends. And then they have the audacity to tell us not to do that. So it's hard to take advice from people whose idea of leisure is to switch from white monsters to espresso. Like, that's really moving the needle much. Maybe they'll say, take a vacation, delete your social media apps for a week, you'll cleanse yourself. But most importantly, stop working. Fuck that. What if I can't stop working? What if I don't want to stop working? That's when I have like a heart attack, just right on camera, and then I croak, and you understand the point of the video. Heart attack aside, this all kind of culminated a few months ago when Erica, the missus, was out of town during the holidays, and I was left to my own devices for 2 weeks straight. I worked nonstop. 1,800 square feet, all on my own. What does a bachelor do when he does not have any family? No interference to tell him, hey, when are you going to get off the laptop? I worked Friday, I worked Friday night, I worked Saturday, I worked Sunday. And for about 10 days straight, it was frickin' sweet. Writing, shooting, editing, publishing, again, writing, shooting, editing, publishing. I felt like a rock star. But then something happened. I cracked. Didn't have a heart attack. But by the time I was picking up the missus from LAX airport, the following day, we did our classic Friday night promenade. I had a busy day already, and I just broke down in tears. Fellas, I literally got misty-eyed and then full waterworks for no reason. Like, there was a release valve that I accidentally bumped into. And I talked a lot about the gory details of this particular event in my newsletter. Link in bio. I won't get into it here. But that feeling, I can't help but think that that is what all the successful people say. is burnout. I don't want to feel that anymore because although I am totally down to tear up every once in a while, it seems like I had some hydration in me that needed to get out. That's not such a great state of mind to be in, to be a productive worker. I might argue that my creative thoughts aren't going to be as creative if that's the state of mind that I find myself in. However, the rest thing, it does not work for me. This is when usually the gurus will come in and tell you, my dear son, you must meditate. You must take some time for yourself, reflect, lean into the feeling of not working. But the problem is, that works for about 20 minutes, and then my brain will start just inventing shit, problems to solve that don't actually exist. And that's not so restful. And then the bigger problem to all this is, I kind of like that. I get off to solving problems. And I like to work. I gave it a few weeks, and the solution that I found came to me. I watched Erica. She tended to her garden. We have this little outdoor patio, this little table, and she's got some herbs on it, and she's started growing tomatoes. We had earlier in the day, I went to a thrift shop and picked up this beautiful ceramic pot, so she was replanting some things, topping off some fresh soil, making sure the water levels on all the other plants were fine. I looked at this woman who is normally, if you think I'm frantic, the lady matches it and probably 2x's it. She is better than me at all things, including my level of neuroticism. She wasn't like that during this activity, though. At this point on a Sunday, both of us are kind of running around like chickens with our heads cut off, stressed for no reason of the week to come, but still somehow so unable to relax, even when there's nothing else for us to do. My lovely lady, though, during her gardening activities, she floated through that garden. I'd never really seen her like this before, especially on a day like Sunday afternoon. This wasn't your typical Sunday reset vibe video on TikTok where you're checking boxes off of lists and vacuuming things and getting a lot done. That's very theatrical, and you gotta get shit done. Adults have chores. Those chores get managed. Where do you slot it in when you have a busy week? It has to be on Sunday. The thing about her doing this whole gardening thing is it didn't look like the chores. It didn't look like work. But at the same time, it wasn't rest either. What was it? It was a garden. My garden looks a little different from her garden. I'm not going to steal her activity. There can only be one gardener in the house as far as I'm concerned, and she's killing it. Plus, I don't really want a garden. But I started a list of things that seem adjacent to gardening activities, and maybe this is something that you can do too. During the week, I started collecting thoughts that seemed like more so I was doing the thing just to do the thing, and not that I was trying to do it faster or optimize it or be the best at it. A couple of my ideas. I have a collection of pretty cheap watches, cheap Casios and the like, and they get pretty dirty. So I wrote this on the list, and I ended up doing it one Sunday, shining my cheap-ass watches. There's something about cleaning something that still works even when it's dirty. It doesn't care about being clean. I found like it was a good gardening activity. I'm a big reader, and usually I'll read 20 or 30 minutes before bed, and it knocks me out. But reading on a Sunday, not to go to bed, not to inflate my Goodreads number so I get through the 52 books I wanted to this year, but just to be reminded that I can open up a 400-page book, and it doesn't matter how fast I read it, that 400-page book exists. It will always exist. I will die, and it'll still be 400 pages. Me and the missus like to try new restaurants. It's easy to want to go to the best restaurants always, and I will be scrolling through Yelp for far too long, reading reviews and assessing whether or not it's worth my time. But the gardening version of this, the way that I could tend to my garden, going to a restaurant on Sundays, would be not by its review. Maybe this restaurant has no reviews at all, but I walk by it and it looks cool. It's very possible that going on a vacation to Bali would solve all of these problems far better. That's maybe the truth. But that is not what I'm looking for. 6 days a week. My brain runs pretty hot. And I like that. I prefer that. I really like to solve problems, but a garden is not something you solve. So on Sundays, I tend to my garden. Not because I'm trying to heal myself, but because plants grow at their own speed, and for at least a few hours on Sunday, I can let them set the pace. I, my dear gravy babies, do not have all the answers, so I will leave you with a question. What is in your garden?